Hello, John Dove here, and welcome to the latest episode of the Speed Mooting Podcast, episode 7, Partners in Crime. So today, Hayley and I discussed a variety of topics, so it should be an interesting episode for you. We began by discussing pupillage week. We understand that pupillage offers went out last week, so we send our congratulations to those who were lucky enough to secure pupillage. If you weren't one of the lucky ones and you didn't secure a pupillage this time round, try not to panic too much. Hayley and I share some words of wisdom. We certainly took a long time to enter this profession and get into our dream job, so don't worry. We share lots of wisdom in that regard. We talk about some recent testimonials that we've had. We've had some testimonials in from people who've taken part in our advocacy club and who have been involved in our competitions, and they've had some recent success in securing pupillage. We also talk about Operation Early Door that came into effect this week. It deals with those on remand and awaiting hearings in the Magistrates Court. We also recap the latest from Speed Mooting, so our upcoming competition, and of course the latest from the Advocacy Club. And then we finish by talking about Harry Potter World. For some reason, that guy seems to make a regular appearance on this podcast. It was a fun episode. We enjoyed recording it, and we hope that you enjoyed the episode too. Welcome to the podcast. Hey, hello, and welcome to the Partners in Crime podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Hayley.
And this is episode 7. We're moving on now.
We certainly are.
We really are.
The magic number 7.
Magic number 7. Are you asking who this episode is in honour of, Hayley?
Go on then. Which Formula 1 star is this episode in honour of?
We've got a few options. I mean, strictly speaking, if we're using the current numbering system, the current number 7 is, well, I suppose technically it's still Kimi Räikkönen, even though he's retired, because he's the most recent person to have the number 7.
Is there anyone more interesting though?
There might be.
Go on.
There might be. I'm going to go number 7. I'm going to say Michael Schumacher.
Ooh!
That was clearly surprising.
Makes me think back to his Mercedes-Benz days, his most recent time in Formula 1. The final 2 seasons he ran with number 7 on the car. And of course, 7 world titles. So quite appropriate. So welcome to episode 7. The Michael Schumacher special.
Anyway, we're getting sidetracked.
As
much as I'm sure you would love it to be a Formula 1 podcast, it's not.
No, it's a law podcast, so let's get back to the law.
Get back to it. So it's Thursday the 16th of May right now, and big things that have happened very recently in the legal industry. I think the big one is everyone received their pupillage offers just last week, didn't they?
Congratulations if you received one. Well done. Hard work has paid off. So enjoy it, celebrate. And people often say, don't they, with the few months running up, people quickly to prepare. Just enjoy it. You're going to learn. You're going to be trained while you're on the job. So just enjoy your last few months. So not that it's not enjoyable when you... But what I mean is, don't feel the need to go over the top. Relax, celebrate it and enjoy it, and then crack on and work hard once you start.
Yeah, it's a strange time, isn't it, because all of the social media forums are a weird little mix of happiness and not so happiness for people that are finally getting their pupillage offers. It's the best thing ever, but for people going through rejections again, it can be really, really difficult. So you did a really nice post, didn't you, just to try and uplift people that haven't got it this year?
Because, you see people that go, oh, I got it in my second round, so I know what it's like. No. No, when you've been through round after round after round, then you know. But, there are lots of people like me who year after year after year just could not get through. And it's a shame because there just aren't enough positions out there, but there's so many talented people. It's a really unfortunate process, but the point I made on that post on social media is, the rejection's hard, but stick with it, persevere, and that's exactly what I did. And it took me 11 years to go from finishing the bar course to starting in practice as a barrister, and it would have been very easy for me to say, that's it, I'm not gonna pursue that avenue anymore. Tried, gonna close that down, and that would have been fine. That would have been fair enough. But no, I was determined. It didn't matter by hook or by crook.
Yeah.
the people that were saying no, we're not going to keep me down forever. I was determined I was going to make it in this profession, and lo and behold, that's what I did. And funnily enough, I'm making an alright career of it. I'm winning trials. Solicitors want me. Clients like me. So who'd have guessed it?
Who'd have guessed it?
I turned out to be an alright barrister in the end.
I think the competition is just so fierce, isn't it? It's like, if they probably know, if they could take everyone, they'd all go on to have amazing careers, but there's only a tiny little space for all of the applicants every year. I mean, I wouldn't want to be sitting on those pupillage committees having to choose who gets it or who doesn't.
No, not at all. It's got to be hard, hasn't it? So,
yes.
and you know, particularly when you get into the final stages, you know, because as you say, even if you take that huge sift, there's got to be a huge proportion of those people who would make fantastic barristers. And then, you know, whatever the selection process is, you've got to narrow it down to your shortlist. When you're down to a shortlist, how you pick, I'll never know.
No, it must be such fine margins and very little things that put someone just in front of another person.
Yeah, and that's it. And there's an element of luck with it, you know, because you might have, you know, a shortlist of, let's say it's 6 people that go to a final round interview. And if you put them in front of every different, you know, those same 6 people in front of every pupillage panel around the country, I bet you not every pupillage panel would pick the same person as the best person.
No, definitely
you know,
not.
So
no, just keep going, guys. You will get there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's very similar to obtaining a training contract as well. That is so competitive. I mean, that took me 6 years from finishing university. I mean, it took me 4 to get one. But then I had to wait another 2 years to actually start one because a lot of commercial firms recruit 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
But there was times when I thought, I mean, I was working in compliance at the time and getting promoted and climbing the ranks. Should I just give up and just work in compliance? You know, I could have a great career here, a pretty lucrative career here as well. But there's just something in our natures, and that's probably why we want to be lawyers in the first place. You know, we're really ambitious, we're stubborn as hell. And we know we'll be good once we get there, so you just can't give up.
Yeah, that's it, absolutely.
And you've all got that amazing feeling to look forward to, and you finally get that pupillage offer, that training contract offer. I mean, nothing compares.
There literally is nothing like it. I cross-qualified and became a solicitor before actually going into practice as a barrister. I remember seeing that email. So, you know, I'd interviewed with the firm and I'd waited for weeks and weeks and weeks for the answer, and I'd forgotten about it, to be honest, you know, because it had gone that long. I thought, oh, well, maybe it's just a silent rejection sort of thing. And I'm on the train home from work one day, and just by chance, just checked my phone, and I saw an email from this firm. Like, oh, okay, right, this is interesting. Wonder if this is, you know, a belated rejection. And I opened it, and just that feeling of relief. There's nothing like it. It's just such a weight that's lifted, because, you know, it's when you finish your studies and when you're applying for your training contract or your pupillage, it's all consuming, because you know your whole career hangs on one firm or one set of chambers going, yeah, go on, we'll give you a chance.
Yeah.
You know, so you literally can't move forward. You can't progress into your career until a chamber or a firm
gives you a
says
chance.
yes.
Yeah.
Someone's got to give you a chance. And, you know, when that email finally comes through, or letter or phone call, whatever it might be, but I just sank into my seat in the train like, yes.
You never forget, do you? I mean, I remember when I got mine. So mine was an internal application, and my boss at the time, so he knew that I was successful, but he wasn't allowed to tell me yet. It was going through a process. And they said the ones that weren't successful were going to get an email that day. The ones that were going to get a phone call. So he sat a few rows behind me.
Yeah.
And he said to me afterwards, every time your phone rang, I was like, this is it? And I'd be like, oh, hello, IT, yes. And then when I finally got the call, I was called into a meeting room. And then I just came out and like shouted to everyone, like, I've got it.
Amazing.
And everyone was like so chuffed for me.
Yeah.
And I remember as well, someone bought me a bottle of champagne for my 18th birthday. And I said, right, this is the champagne bottle. This isn't getting opened until I have a training contract. And then the years go by and it's sat in a cupboard gathering dust. And there's a few times, you know, nice things happen, finish university, etc. Shall we open it? And it's like, no, that's the training contract bottle of champagne, you can't open it. So this day when I received my training contract offer, I didn't tell anyone initially in family or anything. I just went home and said to people, oh, you know, it's a nice day, let's do something nice. Why don't we open this? And I pulled out the bottle of champagne. And I think it was my mum was like, you can't open that, that's your... And then the penny just dropped for everyone that had finally got a training contract. And then we opened the champagne. We all had a glass. It tasted terrible because it had been sat there for too long. It probably wasn't the nicest, poshest champagne. But for me, it was just like the best celebration ever. And I'll never forget that feeling.
No.
So for all of you out there, if it wasn't your year yet, just stick with it, because you will get there and you'll never look back once you get there.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think the other thing as well is, you know, try and enjoy the experience along the way. You know, make sure that you make the most of things. You know, I think about initially, particularly the first year or so, and it was all I was doing. You know, I was go to work, come home, and you just bash out the pupillage.
It was like another part-time job, wasn't it?
And that was literally, that was all I was focusing on. And I think it literally does, I keep using the same word, but it just does absolutely consume you. And I remember at some point, you know, there was a barrister I ran into, and he said to me, John, just chill out a little bit, you know, because, you know, at the end of the day, it's a job, and there's more to life to it. You know, go, obviously still focus on that, but make sure you've got something else, you know, enjoy your life, etc. And then it'll happen when it happens. So, you know, I think that was a good little pep talk, and I think I needed that, and it just helped me sort of chill out a little bit, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
It was a really good pep talk for me. And I think back, you know, so the past decade or so that's been between now and, you know, finishing bar course, applying, and then getting into the profession, I've done things, I've enjoyed my life outside of it, but also put the work in to actually get there. And I think that's important. So, you know, for those of you out there that are worrying about it, make sure you've got something else going on as well. And who knows, it can lead to other opportunities, because as good as this profession is, you know, I highly recommend it to everyone, both the solicitor and the barrister profession. You might find something else. You might find something that you prefer along the way. So, so even if you don't get in, it's not the end of the world. You might find something else, but if you really want it, stick with it, and you'll get there at the end. Remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
And I think someone commented on your post as well and said, rejection, unfortunately, is a part of this business, and it doesn't end when you finally get that pupillage offer, that training contract offer. It doesn't even end when you qualify.
No.
And that's so true, isn't it? So
well, of course,
the resilience you're building up now, you know, you'll take on with you in your legal career. You know, as a barrister, you can't win every case.
Sadly
as a
not.
solicitor, you can't please every client. It's part and parcel of it. So in a weird way, you're building up skills that you'll take with you on your legal career. So,
and I think don't dwell on the rejections so much as well, because, you know, I think I've said this before, but I see them as my battle scars. So I've literally got a box upstairs filled with letters rejecting me. I've still got all the emails there.
Oh, John, that's really sad.
But you know what? Because I see that's kind of the path that's taking me to where I am. But as I say, I see them as like my battle scars.
Yeah.
Like, great, okay, here's all the rejections, and these are all the rejections that got me closer to this profession. So, yeah.
Did you print and keep the email that said you'd got the training contract?
Funnily enough, I don't think it did. that's how warped I am. I celebrate the rejections.
John Dove, yeah. I mean, what did you do to celebrate? Anything?
So I remember that night. So I was coming home from work, because I used to, obviously I lived in Liverpool but worked on the Wirral, so I used to have to get the train into town and then the train home. And it was only my mum that was at home that day. So I remember going in, told my mum. She was over the moon, as you'd imagine. And we tea went to the gym, and that's it. I was like, I don't need to do a pupillage application tonight. Yeah.
So funny. At least I did make you celebrate when you started your career at the bar.
Yeah.
We did. I can't remember what we did, but we'll have done something nice.
Yeah, we'll have done something nice.
We got for a meal.
Probably went to Wetherspoons or something, didn't we?
Maybe. Fancy.
Fancy. But it was just, as I say, everything was just easy after that point. You know, there's just, I don't know what it is. It's hard to describe. But, you know, we talked about it last time, to use the analogy Dave Ramsey uses. I think it's probably the same feeling that he describes when your mortgage is paid off, that weight that's gone. I think it's the same thing.
Yes, and then you go into a pupillage or a training contract and you're trying desperately to get tenancy or get a qualified position. The fun never ends. Yeah. But you know what? As I said before, you've got it in you that you want to be a lawyer. You've got that competitive, that ambitious nature, so it makes us thrive, doesn't it? It's what we live for, so.
100%.
Yeah.
So, long and short, if you got one, fantastic, well done, celebrate. If you didn't, don't worry, crack on, persevere, keep building those skills, and if you want it, you're going to get there.
Yes. So, something I thought we'd mention, only briefly, quite frankly, because I don't know a whole lot about it, but I've seen it on all of the social medias, particularly LinkedIn, Operation Early Dawn.
Yeah.
So obviously you've been in court all week, John. Has anyone been talking about this? Have you heard anything about it?
Funnily enough, I've not really heard many rumblings about it, simply because I've been it's been kind of a busy week for me, so I've not really been speaking that much to people. But
I mean, for those who don't know what it means, I'll just read this very quick clip from. So this is on the Law Society Gazette. Let's see. Lawyers are braced for chaos in the magistrates' courts after the Lord Chancellor today triggered an emergency measure that could see defendants kept in police custody for an extra night instead of being brought to court because prisons are full. Under Operation Early Dawn, the Ministry of Justice said HM Prison and Probation Service will assess each morning which defendants can be transferred from police cells and taken to court to ensure there is a safe and secure location if they are remanded in custody. So, I mean, what I take from this, and as I say, I'm not a criminal lawyer, so this is very much a lay perspective of this, is that the prisons are that overcrowded that people who should be going into custody are not, or people that might have the chance to be released on bail aren't getting their hearings heard. Is that pretty much it?
Potentially, yeah. So it sounds to me like there's a slight delay there on people, when I say slight delay, by a day or so, of people not being brought to the magistrates' court for their remand hearings. And the reason being, if it turns out that they are remanded, there just simply isn't a prison spaces for them. Gosh. So of course, what the reason that these hearings are delayed is because it sounds like, you know, there's some sort of checks going on there, and they need to make sure that there's a prison space available, so that when that person comes to court, if they're going to be remanded and bail is refused, there's actually a prison space at the end of it for them. So, I mean, difficult to say. As I say, I've not read too much into this yet.
Well, you've been in the Crown Court all week, haven't you?
I've been in the Crown Court all week anyway, so I've not really dealt with any remanders this week. So, I mean, it's a case of watch this space, see what happens there. There's been a lot of rumblings on Twitter about this, and particularly those who are practicing in the magistrates' court. So, yeah, keep your eye on Twitter and LinkedIn to see what the practitioners are saying about this.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It's not impacted me yet, but
see what happens. And we always talk about commercial awareness, don't we? So, law students out there, make sure you know what this is, what's happening with it, keep on top of it, because no doubt if it does become something serious that has a bit of a long-term impact or even a domino effect impact, even if it's only short, probably will come up in your interview. So okay, so we've just mentioned there, John, you've been in the Crown Court this week.
Yes.
So I think we were talking earlier in the week, weren't we, that you had a very interesting legal point crop up?
Very interesting legal point crop up. So one of the hearings I was dealing with this week was what's called a committal for sentence. So for those of you that don't know, committal for sentence occurs when somebody goes originally to the magistrates' court, because I think I've mentioned this previously, every offence always starts life in the magistrates' court. And then some offences are known as what's called either way offences. So that's an offence that could be tried in the magistrates or could be tried in the Crown Court. And if you plead guilty to an either way offence, and if the magistrates' court say this offence is far too serious to be sentenced in the magistrates' court, normally because the magistrates only have the power to impose a 6-month sentence for a single offence, they will say this needs to go to the Crown Court. So it's committed to the Crown Court, and then you have your sentencing hearing in the Crown Court, because the Crown Court has, whatever the overall sentencing powers are for that offence.
Yeah.
And the hearing in the Crown Court is called the committal for sentence, but it's effectively a sentencing hearing. Now, I was dealing with a case this week whereby a defendant had pleaded guilty in the magistrates' court to a number of counts, not counts, but charges in the magistrates' court, so a number of charges. This was then committed up to the Crown Court, and the judge picked up on a point that two of the offences to which he pleaded guilty weren't quite the right offence, so the prosecution would need to amend the charges. Now, because we're in the Crown Court, the jurisdiction of the magistrates' court has ended, and the prosecutor can't just simply amend the charge at that point, because we're no longer in the magistrates' court. He's no longer got the power to do that. So we have to put our thinking caps on and apply some various legal provisions in order to do so. So ultimately, to get around this problem that the offences were charged under slightly the wrong legislation, the judge had to use his powers under Section 66 of the Courts Act, and that allowed the Crown Court judge to then sit as a district judge of the magistrates' court. So then effectively, although nothing in reality changes, we're all still there. We've not warped anywhere. We're still in the same courtroom. We've all still got our wigs and gowns on. The judge has still got his wig and gown on. But then he uses his power to sit as a district judge at this point. So he's effectively demoted himself and become a district judge. That then meant that we effectively were in the magistrates' court. And what the prosecutor could then do was he laid two fresh charges under the correct legislation. My client was able to enter his guilty plea. We then had effectively mode of trial, and the Crown Court, well, he's no longer a Crown Court judge, he's a district judge at this point, said, yes, I believe these are too serious for me to sentence as a district judge, therefore I'm going to commit these to the Crown Court, so I'm going to send these for a committal for sentence. And then when he decided that, he then took his district judge hat off and then became a circuit judge again of the Crown Court. At which point, my client was able to vacate his pleas to the two previous offences that we dealt with. Now, interesting side point for those of you that are interested in the more particular points of law. To vacate a plea, normally you now require a written application under Part 25 of the Criminal Procedure Rules. The judge waived that requirement, and therefore those offences were those pleas were vacated, and we were able to deal with the committal then in the Crown Court. So a very interesting legal procedure that was dealt with. But I understand. Simply because there's a large number of cases that go to the Court of Appeal when this procedure goes wrong. Judges can be very cautious about using the Section 66 procedure, but it's such a helpful piece of legislation, particularly in a case like that, because otherwise, I
was going to say, it sounds ridiculously complicated, but what would be the alternative?
Well, the alternative would have been thinking this through, because we'd need fresh charges to start life in the magistrates' court. So if the judge didn't have that power, we'd potentially need to adjourn the committal proceedings, have a fresh hearing in the magistrates' court for the CPS to lay the new information, that to be committed, and then to ensure that all the charges had the same committal date at some point in the future.
Good job.
So very, very helpful piece of legislation there.
Mm-hmm. Wow, there we go.
Yeah.
I wonder if anyone else on any of our channels has had to use Section 66 before.
I wonder if you've ever had to use Section 66 before. Comment below.
Yeah.
So we often ask people we generally say, we invite testimonials, and quite often we get them out of the blue, don't we, Hayley?
We do, yeah.
And this week, given that it's pupillage week, it's a bit of a pupillage special.
It really is,
isn't it? We've had a few testimonials, haven't we, Hayley?
Yeah.
So would you like to read out a few of those testimonials?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's two that they just make our day hearing
really
these things, don't they?
Yeah,
I mean,
they really do.
Not to toot our own trumpet.
You've combined two there. I like it. Just toot your own horn and blow your own trumpet.
Yeah, not to blow our own trumpets, but we work really hard, don't we, for everything we do.
We do, absolutely.
And when you get testimonials, emails like this, I think one came from an email, one was a LinkedIn message, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It just makes it all
worthwhile.
Really does,
I mean, we put such long hours into this, don't we, Hayley?
Yeah.
So when you get... And it's there to help people, because those opportunities just weren't there for us back in the day. And when someone turns around and goes, yeah, do you know what? The work you've done has actually positively helped me.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it.
There really isn't. So this is the first one, which says, speed mooting was very helpful with getting pupillage, as the pupillage process tests how well you can make a case. The speed mooting competition gave me a good chance to become a better speaker and to gain more confidence in my abilities. It's a great opportunity to test yourself and improve.
Amazing.
That's so good, isn't it? And then the second one, which this came through, was this Friday this came through?
Must have been, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember just being like, oh.
Must have been the day that person got the offer.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was. I'm writing to share some good news. I have received an offer of pupillage. This is an amazing opportunity for me, and I wanted to extend my thanks to you and the team at Advocacy Club for all that you have done to support my development as an advocate over the last 2 years. As a non-student career changer, I simply would not have had the opportunities to practice and compete without the existence of your club. The Advocacy Club is one of a kind, and I know I will be recommending it to any aspiring barristers I come across for many years to come.
Amazing.
And we didn't even mean to do that, but I didn't even realise that was one for speed mooting and one for Advocacy Club.
Yeah, it's worked out quite nicely, hasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So maybe that might be a lead in to do a cheeky plug, John.
It might be. Well, I mean, for those of you that don't know, there are two sides to what multiple sides, but in terms of the advocacy side of things, there are two elements. So firstly, we have competitions. So that first person was talking about our competitions. And we have 4 competitions a year now, don't we, Hayley?
Yep.
2 mooting competitions and 2 advocacy competitions. The next one that's coming up is the 1st of June. It's online. It's a plea and mitigation competition. Talked about committals for sentence, pleas and mitigation. So something very practical for if you go into criminal practice. We provide all the information for you, so there's no drafting and no research, and you get that the night before. So before 6 p.m, you get all the papers, so it's like being in practice. If anything, probably a bit better actually, because sometimes we'll add you to the DCS an hour beforehand or something. So actually quite generous in terms of the timings there. If you want any information about it or you want to sign up, visit speedmooting.com. And then secondly, the Advocacy Club. So by comparison to our competitions, the Advocacy Club is all about practicing advocacy. So it's all about, it's a low pressure environment for you to come along, practice advocacy, make mistakes and improve so that when you come to do advocacy for real, whether that's in competitions, whether that's at university or even in practice, because we've got practitioners who are in the club, you get the chance to practice in that friendly environment. You receive feedback, and it's a really fun and engaging environment. So we have 2 meetings a month online, and really low pressure. Once again, speedmooting.com, and you can find all the information there.
Yep. Or if you've got any questions at all, you can always email us in info@speedmooting, or on any of our channels. We're on all of the social medias. You can drop us a comment or drop us a message anytime.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we're always asking for questions for the podcast as well. So if ever you can think of a question, just drop us, as Hayley says, contact us on the socials or drop an email, and we'll gladly answer your questions.
We certainly will. So it's nearly that time, almost the weekend. Got one more day of your trial, unless it runs over to next week.
Who knows? Let's see how long the jury take.
Let's see. And then on Saturday, we are off to London.
London, baby!
Yeah.
Again, I feel like we spend half of our time in London lately.
We've been down there so much, haven't we?
We really have. But we were saying yesterday, weren't we? This is the first time for a while we've gone and it's not been attached to any event or work event.
Yeah.
So we're just going because we are going to the Harry Potter world.
Harry Potter. I can't remember if I've mentioned this previously, but I've finally seen all the movies now.
Mm-hmm. You didn't read all the books before Harry Potter World, though. I was a bit disappointed in you for that.
No.
Draw the line at the movies.
Yeah, draw the line at the movies. Even that was a bit of a push. But you know what? I've done it. I tick that box and say I've seen the Harry Potter films.
Yes.
Yes, not bad. I wonder whether we'll see the courtroom there.
Maybe. I mean, it was only in for one little scene in one film, so
yeah, who knows?
If it is, we'll let you
walk in and say, "Witness for the defence."
yeah. We'll let you have a little go. Bring your wig along with you, and you can pop it on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our weekend plans. So whatever you're up to this weekend, hope you have a lovely time. Let's see what the weather does. It might be nice. It probably won't be. But I hope you have a really nice weekend anyway. And we'll see you next week around the same time.
Yeah, see you next Friday.
Bye.
Bye now.